Hi, thanks for joining us for another episode of Executive Benefits Simplified. My name is David Cox with Benefit RFP, and with me, as always, is my friend and counterpart, Bob Nienaber. And based on some feedback we got from our first videos that we released, we're changing up the format a little bit. We're getting rid of the slides. We're going a little bit more casual, a little more off the cuff, and just have a conversation about the topics that we selected for today. And the first one is about non-qualified deferred compensation plan design. Thrilling, I know, Bob, but something you know well. And I'll just stage this, the NQDC plans, they're not just about deferrals. They're really a strategic tool companies can use to attract, retain, and reward key talent. And I think this is especially true in competitive industries. And I know everybody thinks they're in a competitive industry, but some certainly stand out as more competitive than others. But regardless, if you're out there competing for talent, which all companies are these days, this is a tool that you should consider a Swiss Army knife of benefits. And today we're going to dig into some plan design considerations. So Bob, where do you want to start?
Let's just dive into it. So when you're thinking about these plans, first and foremost, these plans should be fun for the participants, and they should be financially rewarding for the company that's using them. These are among the most heavily used plans that exist for highly compensated executives because they do so much. These are not very restrictive in many facets that we'll talk about today. There are some restrictions because, as the government states, we're giving you a great thing. So we are going to have some restrictions. You can't use it like an open checking account, those types of things. But beyond that, they're very, very flexible. And when you're thinking about plan designs, a lot of people are surprised that are used to just using things like 401ks, or maybe they use phantom stock plans as a benefit tool. These kind of incorporate a little bit of both. You can build a plan around a phantom stock plan. You can build a plan around a completely open white paper on what you want the plan to do, what you want the goals to be about in the plan. Is it going to involve incentives for the participants? Is it going to involve bonus dollars from the company? And so when I think about plan design, one of the first things that we always talk about is how much you can actually defer into these programs. Legally, you could defer up to 100% of your salary. You could defer up to 100% of your bonus. You could defer up to 100% of your commissions. You could defer up to 100% of your 1099 income or board income. All these things can go into
SARs. Funding. SARs and restricted
everything.
stock.
And as you know, David, SARs have become kind of the hot topic as of late. But whatever people want to use to fund in these programs, it's sky's the limit. You're not really restricted on putting dollars in to fund the programs. And then when you talk about other designs, and David, you can catch the list if I forget some things, but you can build a plan from a competitive standpoint. One of the more favorable things that we see and implement into, I think, every plan that we do these days are in-service accounts. These are accounts that, as the name implies, you can get the money without any penalties while you're actually working there. So hence the name in service. And it can be for your kids' education. It could be for fun things. Maybe you want a new Porsche in 5 years and you're going to save for it and you want to put away some chunks of money. And, when on your 50th birthday, you're going to take the money out and buy your Porsche or buy your spouse and you a wonderful vacation that you've waited on for years. We see other plans. These plans are so flexible and so fun to use and puts the control with the participants when they actually want to pay taxes down the road and how much they want to pay in taxes. And I said that correctly, how much you want to pay in taxes. I'm talking to you from California. It's the least favorable state with respect to income taxes. And so if I utilize deferred comp plans properly, I could defer up to 100% of my income in a pre-tax plan and then move when I retire to another state of lesser tax. I can go to Nevada or Florida or wherever and utilize a provision called the source tax where I can get those dollars out at the new state tax rates. And, so that can save you in many cases. We see millions of dollars being saved by utilizing those privileges by setting up a proper design. As David
I always
mentioned,
say it's like giving yourself a raise. If you utilize that aspect specifically, you give yourself a raise. If you're already planning to move anyway when you retire, like you move to one place for a job and you know you're going to exit when you exit the company, then you can definitely give yourself that pay raise. It's a great piece of flexibility.
Yeah, 100%. And the what's also nice too is we've had participants that have saved so much in taxes that they've used the money that they saved to buy a new home in the other state. So it's, they're that significant. David mentioned SARs earlier, stock appreciation rights. A lot of times companies don't want to give away stock, so they actually will take the value of the private stock and they'll use that as the driving amount that gets bonused into the plan for participants every year. So a participant is really participating in the growth of the company because that's what's going to be utilized to recognize the amount to put in their bonus program. But the company then is not giving away stock. And giving away stock in a company that is not publicly traded has a lot of headaches because there's no secondary market. It's hard to get it valued. There's a lot of things that can go on. And so retaining the stock and paying out the benefits in the form of cash is generally a better way to go for companies that are privately held and have some, hotshot people, top talent, HCEs that can utilize these programs. The other thing that we see with plan design is vesting privileges. They can keep them the same as they would a 401k, or in many cases, they'll actually make it different than what it would be for the 401k. So they're giving the executives that are in these plans maybe an earlier vesting period because they've earned that right, or they're in a competitive market, as Dave mentioned, where all the other companies are doing something similar. So they've got to do the same thing. So they can have immediate vesting. All participant dollars go into these plans are immediately vested, but a company actually has the ability to provide immediate vesting to some or all of the benefit dollars that go into these programs as well. The more common vesting period in about 85% of the plans across the U.S. is 3 years. And so you don't see a lot of vesting plans that are really beyond 5 years. It's kind of unheard of for the most part. If it's fully company funded and the company says, hey, you vest when you retire, that's allowable. It's just not very often that we see designs like that. We can even have tiered vesting. So, it's easy to figure out how we're going to bonus out salespeople. We have a criteria for them every year, what their goals are, how much they need to sell to get to the bonus levels, those types of things. It gets harder when you get into some of the C-suite spots that are not as tied to immediate performance like that. So, how do you reward a CFO? And so a lot of times you'll see the C-suite folks will have a different vesting schedule. They'll have different provisions on what the company's going to give them. They'll have different amounts that those participants can put into the plan versus maybe a new director or a lower level VP, that type of thing. So you can build a plan to have as many tiers as you like. The other thing that you get into is if I'm in a private company and I want a team of people in the company to help me get that company sold, I can do a change of control provision where I award those people based on the company actually selling. So I can really target whatever I want to achieve. We also see a lot of companies that they've grown so big as a private company that the parents are trying to get the kids into the company to take over the company, but the kids haven't earned enough money yet to buy the company out. And so a lot of times what we'll see a deferred comp plan set up to do is allow for deferrals to be put into the plan that the children would use as a purchase down payment with the bank. So, they're not going to be able to come up with $100 million, but maybe collectively as a group, they can come up with $5 million and start building a nest egg that they would then go into a bank and utilize the bank services to complete the transaction. So we see a lot of deferred comp programs that are built that way. We also, depending on plan design, and this is key, administration, with most of the administrators that we see out there, we're very surprised that most cannot do all aspects or facets of deferred comp management. And so what they end up selling the clients are plans that are not as competitive as they could be. From an administrative standpoint, we administer all of our plans. And we administer everything that exists under 409A. So it could be funded with stock, it could be funded with SARs, It could be funded with cash. Whatever the provisions are, we include that in all of our plan design discussions, and that's why we rank so high in the marketplace. We're not owned by an insurance company or an investment group or anything like that, so it gives us flexibility to be really truly on the client side. Our fiduciary in every plan that we sell is on. We're on the same side from a fiduciary standpoint that the clients are, and so we have the same interests that the clients do in getting the plan to be the most competitive plans out there. We also provide incredible amounts of security. I believe we're the only SOC 1, 2, and 3 level company out there from an administrative standpoint. So if you're worried about your executives' information landing in some nefarious person's laptop, to have those protections is necessary. And we're also surprised that most of the administrative companies out there just don't have this. And so when you're talking about plan design, you're not only talking about the features of what you want that plan to do from a recruiting or a retention or a rewarding aspect. You want to make sure that it's going to feel good. We're talking about money. We're talking about benefit dollars. This should be the most fun conversation that executives have every single year. How much am I going to put in? What am I going to get from the company? What's going to go on? Is there a company contribution going into that program? What are my goals? If I achieve my goals, can I make X amount of money? These are all fun conversations. Then when it gets into funding conversations, this is where it's really important for a company is you don't have to fund these plans. But the problem is if you tie the participants' liability or accounts to, say, the stock market as an indicator as to what the values are going to be worth, which is the case in most plans, then you want to have the ability to fund whatever's being deferred into the plan by the participants to go into the actual funding itself. The reason that's important is it enables the company to build values that mirror what they owe those executives. And I'm going to take a drink of water, David, so I'll let you talk about the virtues of different investments.
Yeah, threw a lot at me there, Bob. But I did make a few notes here, so I have a few things to add, not repeat. I think one important thing to bear in mind as companies consider not only implementing a plan like this, but designing it, is that these decisions directly shape executive decisions. So the level of participation in a plan is going to be reflective of the way the plan is designed. So, things like offering a match. Sure, companies don't have to make a contribution to these plans, but typically if we see a plan with higher than normal participation, it's because there is an employer contribution component to it. So things like that will drive those decisions. You mentioned funding, and certainly that is one that will drive participation and executive decisions and participation. When we talk about whether this plan has to be funded, you're right, they don't. But participants do expect it. To feel secure in putting their money and delaying receipt of that money that they're entitled to, then they want to know that the company is doing their part by setting aside dollars in order to pay that money when it is due down the road. Now, whether that's corporate-owned life insurance or COLI, or if it's placed in a taxable account using mutual funds, that is a separate decision and probably a separate webcast. But that's something that we can talk about down the road.
Yeah, and a couple of other things too. When it gets into funding, you start talking about things like corporate-owned life insurance, which is the most commonly used funding vehicle because there's no taxes on the company on the gains, and there's no taxes on the company on the distributions of those dollars. And so it's a very unique product, and it's a very unique tax provision that benefits companies. In fact, when a plan is funded properly, it should always serve as a purpose that will make it an actual bucket of profit for the company. And we generally share those profits with the owners, especially in private companies or with the shareholders. But the company can use those excess dollars however they want. They can add extra bonuses or perks to the plan without having to dig in their pockets because the money comes out of the benefits from the tax law. The carry forward deduction on these plans is significant. If you think about a 401k, they're great because you receive a deduction today. I think the misinformation around non-qualified deferral plans especially is that I never get those deductions. That's not true. You actually receive those deductions when you pay the participants out. And And they're tremendous because in a 401k, you imagine if you started a 401k for your company and you're putting $1 million away into it, yeah, you're receiving a deduction today. But as those participants are in those accounts for 10, 20 years, whatever those account values grow into, the company misses out on 100% of the growth of those dollars. With deferred comp plans or non-qualified plans, it's actually the opposite. In fact, an unfunded plan will build the same carry forward tax asset because whatever the participant account grows to, and let's say it grows to 5 times the amount that the plan started off with, then those deductions, that carry forward deduction, is going to be based on the full amount that's paid out to the participants. The other thing that's nice about a non-qualified plan is these are a P&L statement. The piece of paper that you have that shows the asset and shows the liability, as that asset gets ahead of the liability, the company can access those dollars at any point in time. We see most of our plans these days are funded around 80%. A lot of companies will actually fund 200, 300%, but those are very big companies that have a lot of cash flow, and they're just looking to really build their buckets up where they don't have a bunch of taxable income. And so you can certainly do that. But what we see happens a lot for the smaller company plans is as those assets get ahead of the liability, the company will generally take them out and put them in the owner's pockets in the form of a product that mirrors the executive benefit plan without putting them in the plan. And that's so that when they take their money out, they're usually going to take it out as a dividend, which is a lesser tax than an income tax. Also, though, it gives the owners the ability to use those dollars for whatever they want, whatever business needs they have at any point in time without paying taxes on those dollars. And that's why when you look at going back many years, even places like Disneyland were started using insurance products because of the same nature that we're talking about. The tax effect is huge, and these products aren't new. They've been around for over 100 years. The tax effect is phenomenal on them, so people utilize that. And so when you build a plan, it should build a profit for you. It should also reduce cash flow because, as I mentioned, if I have a carry forward deduction, then I can underfund my plan by whatever that deductible amount is, and I can do that up front. I don't have to wait 20 years for a distribution to happen. I can look at the plan and recognize when those distributions will probably happen, make an educated decision as to how much I want to take out now, that type of thing. We see a lot of plans that are owned by companies that are pass-throughs. And there's a misconception out there, too, that a pass-through can't do these programs. Oh, pass-through absolutely can do these programs. We do a lot for pass-throughs. We'll usually carve the owners out and give them a different plan because it affects them differently. But from a cash flow standpoint, if I'm in a 50% tax bracket as a business owner and I don't want to do a deferred comp plan because I don't want to miss out on that 50% deduction today that I'd get on the 401k, I can still do that because I can actually fund the plan at 50%. So I'm taking the deduction up front, or I'm doing what's called net funding on the program. So that's all about really plan design and looking at the financials. And when we do these plan designs, we look at the financials 4 times a year with the owners of the company or the people that are running the plans to make sure that the plan's meeting its needs and its goals, and people are utilizing it and are happy about it, both the owners, the shareholders, as well as the participants themselves. So, you can get crazy on these things. I think we've seen every plan design that exists over the years from doing this for so long. We even see ESOP plans will come in and because an ESOP doesn't really do much for the senior executives like you would get out of a non-qualified plan. So they'll plug these plans in. They'll use the COLI as a benefit to pay off the repurchase obligation that's owed. So we just see a lot of different plan designs. It's fun when you get into them because every company, I've been doing this for over 3 decades, and every company is a little bit different. They have a little bit different goals or needs that they're trying to achieve. And, they're fun conversations. We take them through a live diagnostic to put it together. We provide ongoing benchmarking because of all the participants we've had in these plans over the years and the number of plans that we deal with. Like I said, I think we see it all. And so when it comes down to benchmarking, that's where the people that are designing the plans and managing the plans, they have a ton of fun with these things. The conversations should be long gone. Unfortunately, they're not. There's some bad players out there that put people in the wrong products so they don't know what they're doing. and it ends up costing companies a lot of money. And unfortunately, that happens. It shouldn't happen because there's not a plan out there that should not be out there that the company's digging into their pockets to pay more and more and more. If the plan's put together properly, it should always yield a profit for the organization.
Yep, I agree. And with that, we've got to wrap up this session. Bob, I appreciate your insights. Just a quick summary. So with plan design, we have so many options. It's worth having the conversation when you're initially setting up the plan, certainly, and then ongoing conversations as that plan lives and thrives so that it can adapt to a changing workforce. You mentioned 409A and plan administration. That's a key part of this because the rules under 409A, they're the regulations that govern these plans. You don't want to screw them up, just like you don't want to screw up the 401k and the ERISA rules. There are penalties if you make that mistake. And so having a qualified administrator in place to not only help you make the design considerations, but implement them and then manage them on an ongoing basis, that's a critical piece of this. And lastly, top talent is watching. So executives, they field offers and they compare benefit packages across those offers. So a well-designed, non-qualified deferred comp plan can certainly be a deciding factor in high-level recruitment. If you have any questions on anything we talked about today, please email us. We're happy to hop on a call and have a conversation. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.